Business owners, you have been lied to, and I'm about to clear it up. There are 7 lies that are destroying your business. Tonight, we're going to clear it up on the Chief of Growth.
From the goal, we the chief of growth. 88,000 deep, took the old. Return the owner, that's the only truth.
Before we kick this off, I want to express my gratitude for all of the individuals who have subscribed, liked, shared the content from the channel. Thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, I suggest you subscribe, like, and share because tonight is going to be amazing. Thank you again. 88,000 businesses. Hey, my name is Jay Aldebert. I have been in the consulting industry dealing with small, medium-sized businesses for the last 26 years. I've gone through 88,000 separate businesses, sat across the table from 88,000 business owners, spouses, partners. These are the lies that you're being fed that absolutely are destroying your company. And I'm going to go down and break each one down and why you can't follow these anymore. If you agree with these, I want to hear it in the comments. And if you disagree, I definitely want to hear from you. So the interesting thing about what I've done for the last 26 years is I go into business owners who have been told by their professionals, who've been told by their friends, their peers, their advisors, whatever it may be, that this is how you become successful. These are the things that actually make your business profitable. You got to do all these and you will be successful. And I have seen it over and over and over again, tripping up businesses more than it ever helps. And the thing is, they feel, based on where they got that information, that this is what's going to make them successful. Imagine that conversation. The conversation where some yahoo comes in a suit and absolutely says, hey, yeah, I hear what that guy said, but let me show you how that's killing your business. It's a very interesting conversation, not one that I'm very comfortable with, and it never is comfortable in the room. And this is why I did this, is because after 88,000 businesses and hearing the same stories, these 7 lies repeat themselves over and over and over, it became apparent I've got to get this out to the public. I've written an ebook. I'm not asking you to subscribe to it, but if you want to, it'll be available at the end. You'll see the link. But here is why. I am a lover. It's a strong word. I'm a lover of small, medium-sized businesses. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them be able to not only put food on their table, which is one thing. I want to see them have a great retirement, fund their retirement, the ability to really build wealth, all of those aspects. And these are the lies that are tripping it up. And to me, it is the biggest frustration because if somebody already has that thought pattern in their head, it's really hard to convince them otherwise. It takes a while. It takes education. And that's what we're going to get into tonight. Let's talk about lie number 1. Grow, grow, grow. Scale, scale, scale. Everywhere you look, every social media is saying, here's how you scale your business. I've got a deal, a package that'll help you grow your business. Hey, subscribe to me. We're going to absolutely grow your business. The thing is, that is the number 1 lie. And we're going to get into it right now. See, my issue is that growth, it's fantastic. I went from $1 million in sales to 1.5 to 2 million. That's fantastic and great. The thing is, if your business, it doesn't have the foundation to support it, it's going to kill it faster than help you. Okay. Let me get into it a little bit. When you take a business and you add more to an infrastructure that hasn't been set up, and when I say infrastructure, let me be clear on what I'm saying. There are 3 things that you have to look at your company in terms of capacity. In other words, how much more you can grow before you get to the point of growing. Let's talk about them. Number 1, a thing called working capital. Essentially, you're going to have to start paying for things in whatever service or product you provide, and you're going to have to wait to get paid for it. So that cycle from the point that you start making purchases to the point you get paid is called a working capital cycle. You bring in more sales, you double in sales, guess what happens? Your requirement for working capital doubles. That's an issue. And if you don't measure it and don't manage it, it's going to take the business down and quickly. Let's talk about another reason. It's called labor productivity. Right now, you have, let's say, 5 laborers, right? And you're doing $1 million at whatever trade, whatever industry, whatever sector you're doing. All of a sudden, you land a big contract. You double in size. You got to get more people in. Are they trained the way you want them to be trained? Are you in a position that they understand and believe in your company? Are they transient in terms of employees? Those are all the things that can have a huge impact on how well the product and service that you provide is delivered to the client. So labor is one of the biggest areas, and it can actually hurt a company real quick. They take on that contract. They say, no problem, I'll fill it real fast. That's not an issue. The quality of the product goes down very, very quickly, and therefore your reputation and possibly the contract. That's another big consideration you have to look at. And the number 3 concern with growth is going to be that internal infrastructure. You've got paper flow, you've got workflow, you've got business process flow. You got people that handle estimating, you got people that handle accounting, people that handle administration. If you grow too fast, and again, you're in a position where they have to be able to handle it. You have to do a systems check. You have to make sure that you're the most efficient, because all of a sudden, if you change how much paper flow is coming in and workflow, you can actually exhaust and get to the point that people either quit, people hold you ransom as it relates to, hey, pay me if you're going to make me work this hard. All of these different issues can happen. And I know what you're doing as a business owner. You're saying, well, you know what? I'll figure it out. If I could all of a sudden double in size, I'll figure it all out. The thing is, there's a stat, and I looked it up the other day, numerous stats, and I'm going to put them actually at the end so you can actually see them. But Stanford did a study, and so did Pepperdine. And they showed that in five years, so you take a company that has a stable $1 million in revenue, fast-paced growth over 5 years, 74% of them were out of business. 74%. You're talking a company that moved from 1 million to 5 million, the growth, everything that everybody's preaching about, and they're out of business in less than 5 years. 74%. Something to look up. It's important. Now, what's the answer? The answer is to be able to look at your business and be able to determine, first and foremost, financial literacy. I'm going to talk about it every episode. You know that. But here's what it is. You need to understand your numbers, what you're capable of handling. Figure out your working capital. Then from there, figure out your labor productivity. Hey, you know what? I've said the stat on the show before. We're going to say it again. The average business owner gets 62% productivity. What does that mean? You pay 40 hours a week. The average throughput for any trade, any manufacturer, right across the board, they're getting 25 hours, 26 hours out of the 40 they pay. So you got room to grow, but if you're not measuring that, you can't manage it. You can't, maybe you won't even have to add another body. Figure out what's in your own backyard, what's out in your field, what's in your house. Figure out what they're producing and then manage it from there. The internal infrastructure side, it's kind of the same thing. You got to be able to measure what your return on investment is. How much can I handle with the workforce I have internally to be able to bring it on? And then grow safe. I know it's boring. It's not sexy. I can't put it out on social media and people are going, yeah, I want to get behind that. No, it's not. But I'm going to tell you 5 years from now, if you listen to me, you're still in business and you're profitable. Look at those 3 things. If you like lie number 1, you're going to love lie number 2. Let's get into it. My accounting system tells me everything. Wrong. Every client I've ever walked into told me they have the best accountant. They have the best accounting system. They have the top of the line. I'm not going to name any names of any companies, but they have spent X number of dollars on this software and it gives them absolute control. It's not happening. And here's why. Let's talk about what accounting is, right? It's accounting for something. That's really just the breakdown of it. It accounts for what happened. It is, in layman's terms, scorekeeping. It tells you how the game was actually played. At the end of the story, if you're looking at what happened after the game, how do you manage from that? Say you're the head coach of any sport, any team whatsoever, and you said, I'm not actually going to watch the game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the stats and what the score was, and I'm going to either win or lose, and I'm going to change my game plan the next year, the next week, the next whatever, the next game. What if I told you to take your accounting system and throw it out the window? What if I told you that your one conversation with your accountant each year at the pretty much end of the year, throw it out the window? It has nothing to do with managing your business. What would you say? I'm ridiculous. I'm crazy. I'm just trying to be controversial. I'm going to explain why. When we get to accounting itself is a historical reconciliation of information. So what does that mean? It tells you how the game was played. You as a business owner, you're going to get a picture of how February turned out, right? If you won, if you lost, you're going to find that out somewhere around April 15th. Now you're going to say to me, well, my guy gets it in 30 days or my gal gets it in 15. Great. It's still historical. The game is over. What are you going to do about the game when you see that you lost? If you won, great. If you lost, there's nothing you can do. Here's why. You're going to attempt something. You're going to say, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this as it relates to my material, or I'm going to stay on top of the labor. I'm going to look at that, or, oh, look at we overspent in marketing. That's what you see. If it worked, you're going to find out 60 days from now. Why? Because you're going to implement whatever it is. Then you're going to have to play that game, whatever that game is. Let's say it's April. Then all of a sudden, you're going to have to wait till May 15th, May 30th, June 30th, somewhere around there to get whether you won or lost. If it worked, fantastic. If you lost, you're even further behind the game. Let's look at it this way. If I was now the head coach of, let's say, the Kansas City Chiefs, it's my favorite team, but if I'm the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs and I decided I'm going to try something new age, new vibe, I'm going to try a new coaching technique. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to blindfold myself completely and I'm going to put on noise canceling earphones and I'm going to walk out on the field during the game. And my job is to call offense. My job is to call defense. My job is to call special teams. I'm supposed to call all of those plays. The only thing is, I don't know which one's on the field. Now, you think I'm making fun of owners when I say this. I'm not. You would look at that coach and you would say, that's absolutely ridiculous. Well, what else would happen is I wouldn't know what time it is in terms of the game. I wouldn't know what quarter is. I wouldn't know what timeouts I have. So how could I call the best strategic plays to win that game? If I just decided at the end of the game, I'm going to take off my headset, I'm going to take off my blindfold and have a look at the score. If I won, that's fantastic. If I didn't and I lost the game, I don't think I'd have the position very long. So here's what I'm trying to say. Accounting itself is a lagging indicator. It tells you what happened. You need to figure out how to get leading indicators in your business that you measure proactively and you can manage proactively. I'll tell you, you will win far more games at that point. My banker is my friend. Guys, this one's an interesting one. I've had a lot of these conversations. My banker gives me whatever I want. My banker takes care of me. My banker thinks my business is doing great. This one's kind of a sticky one because when you're doing good, I believe that relationship actually exists. Try to miss one payment and see how that relationship changes. That is a individual who has a relationship with you based on covenants. You break those covenants, that relationship changes. In terms of being able to manage your money, you need to be able to do that with inside your business. You need to be able to look at lending. They give money to people when they actually don't need it. When you're in a position you need it, you're not getting any. So understanding that your banker is not necessarily an advisor or your friend, they have a credit, right? They have a credit report on you. And if you fall down within that, you're not getting the money you want. The only way you're going to be able to control that relationship is by controlling the profit and cash flow inside of your business. Don't rest on that, on what your banker is going to provide you in terms of a line of credit. Understand things like working capital. Understand things like debt service. Understand things like minimum mandatory profit. If you get those things in line, the bank will be there, of course, but you won't have to lean on them as much as you may have. So I know what you're thinking to yourself. You just heard me mention minimum mandatory profit. Let me break it down. Minimum mandatory profit is if you're going to put in blood, sweat, tears to your business. I'm not just talking about a fictitious number of, hey, I'd love to make 10%. Minimum mandatory profit is what your business either A, requires or deserves. And let's break it down a second. Number one is going to be every decision you've ever made as it relates to taking on additional debt, specifically from your banker in most cases, whether that's a line of credit, whether that's an equipment loan, maybe you bought a building, maybe you just bought the business that you're involved, you had to have a conversation with the banker. One of the minimum mandatory profits that I've talked about in the past, and I'll continue to talk about, is absolutely understanding your debt service. All those payments on every decision you made, that becomes the minimum mandatory profit your company actually has to make this year. But more specifically, what it has to make next month. It can't make it up during the year. You need to be able to calculate that, look at that, plan for that, structure the business to produce it. We've talked about working capital. And if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul to finish projects right now, you're in trouble. And the only thing that's going to fix that is, again, minimum mandatory profit. Being able to calculate your working capital required, being able to calculate your working capital actual, and if there is a deficit, figuring out how to strategically fill that gap. That's minimum mandatory profit. Then we get into the areas of the reason why you started the business in the first place, your livelihood. Do I want a job where I essentially have a job with overhead, or do I want to build personal wealth in terms of my own personal income? So I call this one lifestyle. There's a lifestyle that you want that's within reason that you deserve. And you've got to be able to structure your company to produce that minimum mandatory profit to deliver it back to you. The third area, this vehicle, namely your business, is probably going to be the biggest portion of your portfolio, right? And moreover, your retirement. So being able to figure out what you want that business to be worth, not because it's this industry or it's this much in sales, that's not how a business is valued. It's valued based on what it spits out, namely profit. So if you design the minimum mandatory profit for your business to be able to build out every month, every year, to be able to build that value of that company, that's minimum mandatory profit. And last but not least, it's kind of just looking at it from a standpoint and saying, yes, my business is going to be worth so much when I retire, but I also need this much in terms of retirement, taking those two values, figuring out how much it's going to take to fund your retirement, drafting it backwards, and making that by design, making that minimum mandatory profit to fund your retirement by design. Those are the 5 areas that, if concentrated on, your banker's requirement in your life, your banker's requirement to be able to fund your organization, to fund your activity, it minimizes and you'll be in control. So to summarize, I want you to have a fruitful relationship with your bank, but one that you control, not that they control. I want you to be able to have a good understanding of what your business is supposed to produce. Just waking up every day, turning the key to open the door and getting your product out, or even just striving to make a profit. What's left over? Let's change that mentality and make profit by design. My peer group guides me. I've heard this one 1,000 times and it cracks me up. My peer group is going to guide me how to be more successful. But here's the thing. You guys lie to each other and you know it. I get it. It's great. You get to socialize. You show up for, let's say, a weekend, a dinner, a cocktail hour, whatever it is. I get it. I love the social aspect of it. But if you're showing up there to get guidance, first and foremost, that's your competition in the room. If they're all in your same industry, do you think they want to see you to be successful? No. They want to brag about made up numbers in most cases that they're performing. You walk out of those not feeling so good about yourself. So what do I mean by you lie to each other? The thing is, most people only talk about top line revenue. Nobody's asking how much profit you made. I find that humorous. I could be a $50 million company making maybe 1%, or I could be a $10 million company making 10%. Which one would you want to be? So sitting around having a scotch and soda, talking about, I'm a $50 million company. I have this many trucks on the road. I have this many people working for me. Those are all great stats, but what can you spend? What can you spend? What does that even mean? This is what I'm trying to say. We've talked about it already, and obviously one of the additional lies, but I think these groups should be supporting each other on how to make a profit. And it's not about line number 1, about growth, growth, growth. It's by designing your company to produce a predetermined result and get a group of people together to deliver it by design. So I'm not saying don't go to your 2020 groups. Don't go to your, I don't want to name a few of them, but you know the ones we're talking about, the networking events and so on. I think they're fantastic and great. And maybe they've brought you a deal or two, but find a group that actually is passionate about making profit by funding their retirement, by building wealth, generational wealth. Find that group, spend your energy there instead of bragging about things that didn't even happen. I need an industry-specific consultant. Oh my God, this is one of my favorites. Let's dissect this. Your business is a magnificent puzzle. It's got numerous pieces. There are things in your industry that you need to be an expert at. There are HR rules that you need to be an expert at as well. At the end of the story, it has many different pieces, but the one that trumps them all is the business of the business. An industry specialist fix one portion of your business. There is a big picture there. That big picture has many pieces. Focusing on one part can slowly break another. And that's what we're going to talk about. When you decided to become a business owner, you had two responsibilities: be good at your trade and be good at business. Understanding your trade is very important. All of the newest wave of technology, all the new techniques of doing whatever it is you do, how to improve your product, those are all super important. If you have a consultant for that, that's fantastic. But here's the other side. The other side is to make a profit. The other side is to make a stable company for employees to come and build wealth at your firm. That is the other responsibility. And it's what we call the business of the business. What does that include? It includes finance. It includes operations. It includes sales and marketing. It includes management. But here's the thing. They have to all work in concert, in a symphony. They all actually drive each other. So somebody may be able to come in and talk to you very cleanly about your industry, but you need to be able to understand that that is a separate responsibility. The other responsibility is to make sure that those four groups work simultaneously to deliver what you want. And that essentially is control over your own destiny. So here's all I'm saying. You should be as good at business as you are at your industry. They have to be equal. They have to be balanced. Don't be an expert at one thing and just okay at the other. It never works out. My business is going to fund my retirement when I sell it. So I'm about to get in your face a little bit, so be prepared. This one is gonna hurt. The issue we have here is the inflated determination of the value of your company. Ask any business owner how much their business is worth and actually get them to tell you truthfully in their heart of hearts what they think it's actually worth. And I guarantee you, based on what the market will bear for that business, it's about 7x. In other words, they think it's worth 7 times more than it actually is. These are the two logical questions I ask them every time. Number one, would you pay that much for this business? In other words, if you had to start over again and you were coming out to buy this business, the price tag you put on it, would you pay that? The thing is, their answer is immediately yes. But when we start breaking down the next question, maybe not so much. At the end of the story, it's not how long you've been in business. It's not how many people you employ. It's not how much revenue you've done. That does not give the value of your company or does not speak to the value of your company. Those are nice things. You should get every accolade for those. But how businesses are bought and sold are based on the profit they produce. And when I mean the profit they produce, well, at the end of the story, if I'm buying your business, the only way I'm going to pay off the debt that I just borrowed from the bank to pay you is I've got to make enough profit to cover it. So when you look at the business and you look at the value of your company, you got to look at what did I produce in profit the last 3 years? What was the average? Don't add them all up together. It's actually the average. And when I ask that question and the client says, well, yeah, but I paid this through the company. Well, let's add those back. When we add those back, the number itself shows us what the company produces. Now, here's the magic. The magic is the market has these things called multipliers. And let me explain what they are. If your business can run without you at the helm, you can't be on your phone, you can go away for months and months and months, and it still runs the exact same way and produces the exact same profit, you're going to get a higher multiplier. Let's give you an example. Let's say the profit you produced at the average after the add backs was $200,000. That was the average. If you can come and go as you please, and the business produces that year in, year out, month out, without even a small variation, then they're going to give you somewhere between 7 and 8 times multiple. That means that the $200,000 is now saying that the value of that company is 1.4 to 1.6 million. However, if the absolute only reason your business is producing that $200,000 is because you're at the helm at all times, that you're the cog to the wheel, that you make decisions on. This is how we're going to market, and every sale goes through you, and every pricing document, every decision flows through you, then you're not going to get anywhere close to 7. It's going to be about 2, maybe even possibly 3 for the same, because what I'd be doing is I'd just be buying you. If I'm buying you and I'm going to take the helm and it's really based off every system you've produced, that's going to be very difficult for me to produce the same result. So that same business producing $200,000 with you as the main reason, the main ingredient, the main cog of why it produces that is only going to be worth about $600,000. So when I ask and explain that question to business owners and we have a conversation about now, let's go back to that number you said. Do you think that the marketplace itself is going to pay that number? And only after that conversation, depending on obviously if it sank in, if it hit, if it actually sunk into them, they understand the value of their business is not what they thought it was. See, the thing is, when you ask a business owner about the value of their company, they think about all the years that they've been in it, their blood, their sweat, how many things that they were able to do for others, their family, put kids through school. All those things have a value. Yes, it's an emotional value. And so therefore that inflated number comes honestly, it's not where, the ego itself is so much mixed in there, a little bit, but not much. At the end of the point is you deserve obviously the most amount for your business. Learn how it's calculated, understand how the multiples work, and build your business, design the business to operate without you there. Do that, and the value and the price you have here will actually end up here. And most importantly, on the paper. I take care of my people. This is where you, the business owner, is going to get a bit defensive. I know you're very generous. The Christmas bonuses, the weekly bonuses, the raises, I think they're really generous and kind. But let me tell you what I'm talking about. When I look at Christmas bonuses, let's start there. Christmas bonuses themselves usually don't have a rhyme or reason. What you do as the business owner is you have a look and say, I've made a little profit. Maybe your accountant says, hey, you can lower your taxes by obviously giving bonuses out. Again, very generous. It's fantastic. Here's the issue. What are your employees learning? And when I say what are your employees learning is, was there something that led up to that point, a performance, a measurement, a metric in some way that determined what that number was going to look like? What number they could be assured that was going to help them fund their Christmas, their New Year's party, whatever it may be. Is there something that actually maybe even separates performance? In other words, every employee you have right now thinks they're the employee of the month. They think they work the hardest, that they actually contribute the most. And if there's nothing there that measures that actually shows employee number 1 and employee number 2, that there is a gap, then they all think that they deserve the same. And when you give the same, if you do it based on tenure, if you do it something that has nothing to do with the performance of the individual employee, they're not going to learn anything. In fact, here's how it actually can negatively affect your company. Bill over there got the same bonus I did. Bill over there actually works twice as hard. I'd never ever say that. I'd never ever admit to that. But we got the same bonus. 2 lessons are learned. Bill learns, wait a second, I busted my ass all year long. And I got the same as Jay. That makes no sense. Over on this side, Jay goes, Bill busted his butt. I only kind of dialed it in. I kind of mailed it in, right? And we got the same bonus. 2 lessons from 2 different angles, 1 token of generosity. Let's talk about raises. Most businesses give raises based off of tenure. How long you've been there. You've been a year, I'm going to give you a raise. You've been there for 5 years, you get this much. Those raises themselves, again, is there a lesson being taught? In other words, are you getting the behavior out of the individual employee? And I know it sounds aggressive to say behavior, but at the end of the story, you're leading a group to produce a predetermined result. And the only way you're going to do that is if you get the best out of them as much as you possibly can. And they all kind of need to be managed differently, But how we manage them now is based on a paycheck. That's what it is. If I don't understand the rhyme or reason other than I just have to stay here for a long time to get a raise, the thing is, am I getting day to day, week to week, month to month, the best performance out of your employee? So here's what I'm saying. What I want you to be able to do is put in front of that employee the ability to control their own destiny. Be able to understand the stick, the carrot, be able to understand how to earn that extra $1 an hour or 50 cents, whatever the number is, so that they actually know the path they need to take. They come in every day striving towards that. And when they achieve it, they feel that gratification. They feel part of the team. And you feel really good about giving it to them because you know they've earned it. Not just because they bore you down, not because they kept asking for it, not because they just been here for 2 years, but because they're part of your team, a very big contributing member. That is a fact that I have lived. See, I come from an organization that things are measured minute by minute. Everybody's name is on a board. Everybody's being measured in small increments to monitor performance. And compensation is directly related to those performances. I'll give you a ridiculous example. The lady that answers the phone, we have a measurement, 2 separate tools. The first measurement is how many rings does it take her to answer? Now, why are we even measuring that? Because we know about our incoming calls, what the patience level is going to be on average for a new client. 3 rings max. So we actually have a system that measures really how many rings it takes for that individual to answer the phone. Do you think she's compensated on that or he's compensated on that? 100%. The other part is how fast, if put on hold, it takes them to get to the individual that they're meaning to speak to. Those 2 tools give us the capability of measuring and compensating based on that performance. Yes, we can look at our sales organization. That's pretty clean. You have a sales organization too. You can commission them. But if you take every position in your company, we've done it for 30 some years. Every position in the company has a stick and it has a carrot. Mostly the carrot, but the stick they understand. But the carrot says, here's the performance that I need from you in this set period of time. Not long period of times like, hey, let's get this out of you this quarter. Too long. It doesn't change behavior. It's sometimes minute by minute on specific things. Sometimes it's hour by hour, but no more than a day. The day is being measured and that's it. You won the day, you lost the day, and this is how we're measuring you. You can take your organization, you can break it down into these small increments, have them measured at all times, compensate to give them the actual control of the outcome of the game. Almost like a little business owner inside your business, contributing to obviously controlling a cost, increasing revenue, and increasing profit. You can actually incentivize each one. I know what you're saying. I've tried an incentive program. I've seen thousands, tens of thousands of them. The very first question I ask is, did you break down what the performance that you require out of them? Not in the macro, but in small, discrete units that allow them to be able to control the outcome of the game inch by inch. The answer is always no. You attempted to be generous. You attempted to give them some sort of thing that said, hey, if we work this way, you'll get this. But in most cases, number one, it's not clear and understood. It's not visible. They can't see it on some sort of tracking. And I don't care what the tracking looks like. They can't actually be recognized in front of their peers. They can't be recognized in front of their spouses. And let's be honest, everybody wants to feel like the king of their own castle and to be able to communicate their performance and show it their name in lights on some sort of board gives each of us gratification. So being able to take every position, break it down into what the performance is. If you're not doing that, the chances of your incentive program actually being successful is low. I understand you want to be generous. You want to give back. You want everybody to fight for you every day. Then build the system that will make them successful. Look, I get it. People are going to lie to you. They're going to lie to you based on trying to move you as it relates to their specialty or trade. The thing you can't do, the thing that can't happen, is you can't lie to yourself. We've gone through seven lies. What I want you to do is go through that list and figure out which ones apply to you. I need you to be super honest, not with me, but with yourself. The thing I want you to remember, if you had the capability of fixing these things, you would have done it already. The thing is, these aren't small. These are the things that are destroying your business. The thing I need you to do is self-reflect. If these are affecting you, do yourself a favor. Reach out to someone. Listen, this isn't a program. This isn't a pitch. I love small businesses just as much as you do. At the end of the story, if you have questions, you have concerns, or if you just want to spitball an idea off me, email me, send a DM. I look at everyone. My team gets them to me, and we will respond. You don't have to believe the lies. You deserve better. If you knew how to do this, you would have done it already. Likely, it escapes you. I want you to remember this last thing. Your family, your employees' family, and your vendors are counting on you to cut through the bullshit and find the truth. I am the Chief of Growth.
Chief of Growth, 88,000 deep, took the O, return the owner, that's the owner.